Imagine a world bathed in the soft, golden light of a setting sun. This is North America, but not as we know it. We're stepping back in time to the late Ice Age, a period of immense change and breathtaking beauty. The air is crisp, carrying the first hints of a nightly frost that dusts the endless rolling grasslands with a silver sheen. Long stretched-out shadows creep across the landscape, painted by a sun dipping low beneath the horizon. In the distance, a sight both ancient and powerful unfolds. The silhouettes of a vast herd of bison move slowly, deliberately, across the plains. These are not just animals, they are the lifeblood of this land. Giants of the Ice Age, their dark forms a stark contrast against the fiery sky. Their journey is a timeless rhythm, a migration etched into the very fabric of this continent for millennia. For thousands of years, this was a shared world. Alongside these magnificent beasts lived another newcomer to this vast wilderness. Humanity. Our ancestors walked these same plains, felt the same biting wind, and watched the same sun set over the same horizon. They were hunters, gatherers, and survivors, intricately linked to the world around them. The relationship between humans and bison in this ancient landscape was one of profound connection. It was a dance of survival, a story of predator and prey, but also one of deep respect and understanding. Humans learned the ways of the bison, their seasonal movements, their behavior, their strengths, and their weaknesses. They studied the herds, anticipating their paths, knowing that their own survival depended on this knowledge. The bison, in turn, were shaped by the presence of these intelligent, two-legged hunters. The constant pressure of human pursuit honed their senses, making them ever more wary, ever more resilient. This dynamic, this ancient push and pull, forged the survival strategies of both species. Humans became more innovative in their hunting techniques, developing sophisticated tools and cooperative strategies to take down such formidable prey. The bison evolved to become the incredibly robust and alert animals we recognize from the fossil record. Think of the skills required to survive here. It wasn't just about strength, it was about patience, observation, and an intimate knowledge of the environment. Early peoples learned to read the land like an open book. They knew which way the wind was blowing by the lean of the grass. They could tell the changing of the seasons by the color of the sky and the migration of the birds. And most importantly, they knew the bison. Every part of the bison was a gift. The meat provided sustenance for entire communities, fueling them through harsh winters. The thick hides were transformed into clothing, shelter, and tools, protecting them from the unforgiving elements. The bones were carved into needles, awls, and ornaments, while sinew was used for thread and bowstrings. Nothing was wasted. The bison was a walking resource, a cornerstone upon which entire cultures were built. Let's picture a hunting party at dusk. They are cloaked in animal hides, moving with a silence born from generations of practice. They don't rush. They watch from a ridge, their eyes tracing the movements of the herd below. They communicate not with loud words, but with subtle hand gestures, a shared language of the hunt. They are not just seeking food. They are participating in a sacred and ancient ritual, a cycle of life and death that has sustained their people for time immemorial. Their success depended on understanding herd dynamics. They might target an older, weaker individual at the edge of the herd, or perhaps they had engineered a clever trap, using the natural features of the landscape, a cliff edge, or a narrow ravine. Their advantage. These weren't random acts of violence. They were calculated, strategic operations requiring immense cooperation and courage. And as the last sliver of the sun disappears, casting the plains into a deep, twilight blue, the world grows quiet. The bison herd settles for the night, their deep, rumbling breaths mingling with the whisper of the wind through the frozen grass. The human hunters, successful or not, would retreat to their own shelters. The warmth of a fire, a beacon of life, in the immense, cold darkness. This quiet, expansive landscape was the stage for one of the greatest stories of coexistence in natural history. It was a world where humanity's place was not at the top of a pyramid, but as an integrated part of a complex, interconnected web of life. The bison were not just a resource to be exploited. They were a powerful force of nature, respected and revered. The stories of this time are not written in books, but are carved into stone, painted on cave walls, and passed down through oral traditions that echo through the ages. They speak of a time when the boundary between the human and natural world was porous, almost non-existent. As we begin this journey into the past, it's important to hold this image in our minds. The quiet plains at dusk, the silent movement of the great herds, and the watchful eyes of the first peoples. This is where our story begins, in a world of frost and shadow, a world shaped by the enduring relationship between humans and bison. It's a story of survival, adaptation, and a deep, abiding connection to the land. Thank you for joining me on this first step back in time. If you're fascinated by this lost world, make sure to follow along as we continue to explore the incredible story of the American bison. We have so much more to uncover. See you in the next chapter. Imagine stepping back in time, over 12,000 years ago, into a world vastly different from our own. This was the world of the Paleo-Indians, the first people of North America. They weren't just surviving, they were thriving in a land of towering ice sheets, giant mammals, and a climate that was constantly changing. Today, we're journeying back to uncover the lives of these incredible hunter-gatherers. How did they live? What did their families look like? And how did they manage to build communities in such a challenging environment? Let's explore the world of the Paleo-Indian hunters. The story of the Paleo-Indians begins with a journey. They were pioneers, crossing the Bering Land Bridge from Siberia into a new, uninhabited continent. This wasn't a single, grand expedition, but a gradual migration of small, family-based groups. They were following the herds, the massive beasts of the Ice Age, like the woolly mammoth, giant bison, and mastodon. These animals were their lifeblood, providing not just food, but also hides for clothing and shelter, and bones for tools and weapons. Their entire existence was a dance with the seasons. A nomadic rhythm dictated by the movement of these great herds. Life was a constant state of motion. Paleo-Indian groups were small, likely consisting of extended family units of around 20 to 50 people. This small size was a strategic advantage. It allowed them to be incredibly mobile, able to pack up their lives and move on short notice. They didn't build permanent villages. Instead, they used temporary camps, perhaps returning to favored spots year after year when the hunting was good. Imagine their homes, simple, practical shelters made from animal hides, stretched over frames of wood or mammoth bones. These were easy to assemble and disassemble, perfect for a life on the go. The year was divided into seasons of movement and gathering. In the warmer months, they might follow the herds across vast, open grasslands. As winter approached, they would move to more sheltered locations, perhaps in river valleys or wooded areas where they could find protection from the biting winds and easier access to firewood and smaller game. This seasonal round wasn't random. It was based on generations of accumulated knowledge about the land, the animals, and the changing climate. They knew the best places to find certain plants, where to quarry high-quality stone for their tools, and the migratory routes of the animals they depended on. So, how do we know all of this? The story is written in stone and bone, unearthed at archaeological sites across the Americas. One of the most famous types of sites is a kill site. These are the dramatic scenes of ancient hunts, where Paleo-Indians would ambush and bring down their massive prey. Sites like the Folsom site in New Mexico or the Head-Smashed-Dean Buffalo Jump in Alberta, Canada, give us a breathtaking glimpse into their hunting prowess. At Folsom, a distinctive, fluted spear point was found embedded between the ribs of an extinct species of bison. This was a revolutionary discovery, proving that humans were in North America far earlier than previously thought, and that they hunted these now vanished. These hunts weren't a free-for-all. They required immense cooperation and skill. A single hunter stood little chance against a woolly mammoth, but a coordinated group could use the landscape to their advantage, driving animals into traps, over cliffs, or into marshy ground, where they would be easier to dispatch. This level of cooperation speaks volumes about their social structure. These weren't isolated individuals. They were a community, working together for the survival of the group. Everyone had a role. The men might have focused on the dangerous task of the big game hunt, while women likely managed the camp. processed the meat and hides, cared for children, and gathered edible plants, nuts, and berries. This division of labor wasn't rigid, but complementary, ensuring all the needs of the group were met. The toolkit of a Paleo-Indian was a masterpiece of Stone Age technology. Their most iconic tool is the fluted spear point, like the Clovis and Folsom points. These weren't just sharp rocks. They were exquisitely crafted blades, skillfully flaked from materials like chert, flint, and obsidian. The flute, a channel running up the base of the point, was a brilliant innovation. It made the point thinner and lighter, allowing it to be securely hafted onto a wooden spear shaft. These spears were likely launched with an otlet hole, or spear thrower. This device acted as an extension of the hunter's arm, allowing them to hurl a spear with incredible force and accuracy from a safe distance. Besides these famous points, they made a variety of other stone tools: scrapers for cleaning hides, knives for butchering, and gravers for carving bone and wood. But what about their world beyond survival? Did they have art, beliefs, a spiritual life? This is harder to piece together, but the clues are there. At sites like the Galt site in Texas, archaeologists have found incised stones with geometric patterns. These abstract designs are some of the earliest art in the Americas. They hint at a symbolic world, a way of thinking beyond the purely practical. We can also infer their beliefs from how they treated their dead. The few Paleo-Indian burial sites that have been found show great care. Individuals were often buried with grave goods, like tools, red ochre, pigment, or ornaments. This suggests a belief in an afterlife, a journey beyond this world where one might need their tools and symbols of identity. These small acts of remembrance and ceremony connect us to their humanity across the millennia. The structure of their society was likely based on kinship. The family was the core unit. But these small bands didn't live in total isolation. Archaeological evidence suggests they were part of larger social networks. High-quality stone for tools has been found hundreds of miles from its source, indicating extensive trade networks or long-distance travel. These groups would have periodically gathered in larger numbers at specific locations. These gatherings would have been crucial social events. It was a time to trade goods, exchange information, arrange marriages, and conduct group ceremonies. This web of connections ensured genetic diversity and created a support system, a way to share resources and knowledge across a vast landscape. It was this combination of self-sufficient family groups and a broader, interconnected community that was the key to their long-term success. The world of the Paleo-Indians came to an end as the Ice Age itself ended around 10,000 years ago. The climate warmed, the great ice sheets retreated, and the megafauna they relied on, the mammoths, mastodons, and giant bison, went extinct. This was a period of profound change, but the people didn't disappear. They adapted. They shifted their hunting strategies to focus on smaller game like modern bison, deer, and elk. They broadened their diet, relying more on fish, shellfish, and a wider variety of plants. This period of adaptation, known as the Archaic period, saw the descendants of the Paleo-Indians diversify into a rich tapestry of different cultures, spreading into every corner of the continents. The legacy of the Paleo-Indians is immense. They were the true pioneers of the Americas. Over thousands of years, these resourceful and resilient hunter-gatherers explored and settled to entire continents, adapting to every environment imaginable, from frozen tundra to lush rainforests. Their story isn't just one of survival against the odds. It's a testament to human ingenuity, cooperation, and the enduring power of community. Faint traces they left behind: a fluted point, an incised stone, a ring of campfire rocker windows into a lost world, reminding us of the deep and ancient human history of this land. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey back to the Ice Age. I hope you found the world of the Paleo-Indians as fascinating as I do. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into history. Let me know in the comments what ancient culture you'd like to explore next. See you in the next video. To truly understand life in the ancient past, we need more than just artifacts and bones. We need to see the world through the eyes of the people who lived it. That's why, to guide us on this journey, we're going to meet a family. While they are a fictional creation every aspect of their lives is grounded in solid archaeological and historical evidence. They represent the countless families who called this land home. Let's call them the River Clan. At the heart of our story is Elara and her partner, Corin. They are in the prime of their lives. Strong and resilient, Corin is a master hunter and flint napper. His days are a rhythm of patience and precision. Atrax, Kem reads the subtle signs of the forest, and with practiced hands, transforms raw flint into razor-sharp spearheads and cutting tools. The survival of the family often rests on his knowledge of animal behavior and the keenness of his eye. Alera's domain is the heart of the camp. Her knowledge is a library of the earth. She knows which plants heal, which ones nourish, and which ones must be avoided. Her days are a constant, bustling activity. She gathers roots, berries, and nuts, prepares hides for clothing and shelter, and tends the fire, the lifeblood of their home, providing warmth, protection, and the means to cook their food. Her hands are rarely still, always working to transform nature's bounty into the necessities of life. Their two children, young Bren and his older sister, Lyra, are not just playing, they are learning. Every day is a lesson. Bren, full of boundless energy, shadows his father. He learns to identify animal tracks, to move silently through the undergrowth, and to fashion his own small, clumsy tools from discarded stone flakes. He's not just a boy, he's an apprentice hunter, absorbing the skills that will one day make him a provider. Lyra, meanwhile, stays close to her mother and grandmother. Her world is one of observation and imitation. She learns the intricate patterns of weaving baskets from river reeds, how to grind seeds into flour using smooth stones, and which clays are best for making simple pots. She listens to the stories and songs of the elders, which are not just entertainment, but a living record of their people's history, laws, and beliefs. Watching over them all are the elders, the grandparents. Let's call them Old Man Fen and Grandmother Mara. Their bodies may be slower, but their minds are the clan's most valuable resource. Fen no longer joins the long hunts, but his wisdom is indispensable. He knows the seasonal patterns better than anyone. He teaches the young ones how to read the stars, predict the weather from the wind's direction, and remember the ancient trails that lead to distant resources. He is the keeper of the maps drawn, not on parchment, but in memory. Mara is the heart of the family's spiritual and social life. She is the storyteller, the historian, the healer. Her knowledge of herbal remedies is vast, passed down through generations. She soothes fevers with willow bark tea and dresses wounds with poultices of yarrow. When disputes arise, her calm voice and deep understanding of their traditions help maintain harmony within the group. She is the anchor, connecting the present to the distant past. And their family doesn't end there. There's Corin's brother Tarek, a boisterous and skilled fisherman who knows every eddy and pool in the nearby river. His wife, Isla, is a gifted leather worker, her fingers nimble as she stitches warm winter clothes in sturdy pouches with bone needles and sinew thread. Their children mix and play with Bren and Lyra, creating a lively, extended family unit. This isn't just a group of people living together. It's a perfectly integrated system. Every single person, from the smallest child to the oldest elder, has a vital role. The young provide energy and the promise of the future. The adults provide strength and daily sustenance. The elders provide wisdom and continuity. Knowledge isn't written in books. It's a living thing, passed directly from hand to hand, from voice to ear. Their daily life is a testament to cooperation. A successful hunt by Corin and Tarak means meat for everyone. A bountiful gathering by Elara and Isla means full bellies and a well-stocked larder for the lean times. The children helping to gather firewood or watch the toddlers frees up the adults for more complex tasks. Survival is a team sport, and every member is a star player in their own right. Imagine a typical evening. The hunters return, hopefully with game. The smell of roasting meat mixes with the smoke of the central fire. The children excitedly recount their day's discoveries. Grandmother Mara begins a story, her voice weaving a tapestry of heroes and spirits as the stars begin to appear in the night sky. Old Man Fen quietly sharpens a spear point, his eyes missing nothing, offering a quiet word of advice to Corinne. This family, our river clan, is a microcosm of their society. Their bonds of kinship, their shared responsibilities, and their deep intergenerational transfer of knowledge are the very things that allowed their people not just to survive, but to thrive in a challenging world. By following their journey, we all gain a profound and personal understanding of what it truly meant to live in this ancient time. Join us as we step deeper into their world. Thanks for watching, and be sure to subscribe for the next chapter. Welcome to Chapter 4. We're stepping back in time, to a world shaped by ice and stone. A world where the rhythm of life was dictated by the great herds. Today, we follow the bison as they move through the valley. Imagine a river of life, a dark, churning mass of fur and muscle, flowing across the vast, open plains. This is the bison herd, an entity so immense it seems like a force of nature itself. Tens of thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands of animals moving as one. The ground trembles beneath their hooves, a low, continuous thunder that you feel in your chest long before you see them. The air grows thick with the dust they kick up, a golden haze that catches the light of the rising or setting sun, and there's the sound, a constant chorus of deep grunts, snorts, and the rustle of millions of blades of grass being torn and chewed. These aren't just animals, they are the lifeblood of the landscape. As they move, they graze, transforming the prairie. Their heavy hooves aerate the soil, their droppings fertilize it, and their selective grazing encourages a rich diversity of plant life. They are engineers of the ecosystem, creating a healthier, more vibrant world, just by living their lives. Each individual is a powerhouse. A mature bull can weigh over 2,000 pounds and stand 6 feet tall at the shoulder. Their massive heads, crowned with sharp, curved horns, are built for defense and for clearing deep snow in winter to find forage. Their thick, shaggy coats protect them from the biting winds and brutal cold of the ancient world. The herd doesn't move randomly. It follows an ancient, invisible map etched into its collective memory, a map of water sources, salt licks, and the best grazing lands, all dictated by the changing seasons. In spring, they surge towards the fresh, tender shoots of new grass. In summer, they spread out, seeking cooler highlands or shaded river valleys. As autumn approaches, they begin to gather again, fattening up for the lean months ahead. And in winter, they move to sheltered areas, using their incredible strength to survive the harshest conditions. This seasonal pulse is the heartbeat of the land. And for the people who lived here, the hunter-gatherer groups, understanding this pulse was the key to survival. They didn't just hunt the bison, they lived with them. Their entire existence was woven into the cycle of the herd's movements. For them, the bison was everything: food, clothing, shelter, tools. A single successful hunt could sustain a community for weeks. The hide provided tippy covers and warm robes. The bones were shaped into needles, awls, and scrapers. Even the sinew was used for thread and bowstrings. Nothing was wasted. The bison was a sacred gift, the ultimate provider. So, how did they know where to be? How did they intercept this moving mountain of life at just the right time? It wasn't through luck. It was through knowledge accumulated over generations, passed down from elder to child. It was a science of observation, a deep and intimate understanding of the natural world. From a high vantage point, a lookout might spend days, even weeks, watching. They learned to read the signs. The direction of the wind, the behavior of other animals like wolves or coyotes that shadowed the herd, the subtle changes in the vegetation. They would see the distant dust cloud, the first sign of the approaching herd, and the news would spread like wildfire through the community. This knowledge was a living library. A grandfather would take his grandchild to a ridge overlooking a valley and say, "See this pass? When the cottonwood leaves turn yellow, the herds will come through here on their way to the southern grasses. My father showed me this, and his father showed him." They learned the specific routes, the river crossings, the places where the herd might be vulnerable, such as narrow canyons or steep cliffs. They understood the herd's behavior. They knew that the old matriarch cows often led the way, guiding the others along familiar paths. They knew that the bulls became aggressive and unpredictable during the rutting season in late summer. They knew how the herd would react to a threat, sometimes stampeding in panic, other times forming a defensive circle around the vulnerable calves. This wasn't just about tracking, it was about prediction. By observing the severity of a winter, the amount of spring rain, or the health of the summer grasses, they could make educated guesses about the size and condition of the herd and where it was likely to travel. It was a complex and sophisticated system of ecological forecasting, practiced for millennia. The relationship was one of deep respect. The hunters would often perform ceremonies before a hunt, giving thanks to the spirit of the bison and promising to take only what they needed. They saw themselves not as masters of the natural world, but as a part of it, one thread in a complex web of life with the bison at its center. The herd's journey was their journey. Its health was their health. As we watch this spectral herd move through the valley in our mind's eye, we're not just seeing a group of animals. We're witnessing the engine of an entire world, a world of immense herds, of vast, untamed landscapes, and of people who lived with a wisdom and a connection to the earth that we can now only begin to imagine. The thunder of their hooves echoes through the ages, a reminder of a wilder, richer time. The great bison herd moves on, following the timeless paths, and with it moves the story of life on the ancient plains. Thank you for joining us on this journey. If you found this chapter compelling, please consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel for more explorations into the distant past. We'll see you in the next chapter. The air in the rock shelter hums with a quiet, focused energy. It's the calm before the hunt, a time of meticulous preparation. The scent of pine resin and wood smoke hangs heavy, mingling with the earthy smell of flint and leather. Around the low fire, hunters are absorbed in their tasks. The rhythmic scrape of stone against stone is the dominant sound, a steady percussion as they sharpen the points of their spears. Each flake of flint is carefully chipped away, revealing a razor-sharp edge, designed for a single, vital purpose. These are not just tools, they are extensions of the hunter's will, crafted with a knowledge passed down through countless generations. Look closely at the hands of the old hunter, gnarled and scarred from a lifetime of this work. He holds a spear point up to the firelight, his eyes narrowing as he inspects the edge for any imperfection. A single flaw could mean the difference between a successful hunt and a dangerous failure. He finds a tiny nick and, with a piece of antler, applies precise pressure, flaking off a minuscule sliver of stone to perfect the point. Beside him, a younger hunter watches, his movements mirroring the elders, learning the silent language of the craft. This is how traditions survive, not through words, but through shared action and observation. The spear shafts themselves are made of straight, strong wood, seasoned over many fires to make them hard and resilient. The points are not attached directly to the main shaft. Instead, they are hafted onto a shorter piece of wood or bone called a fore. This clever innovation is a game changer. The foreshaft fits into a socket at the end of the main spear shaft. If a spear strikes bone or gets lodged in a thrashing animal, the main shaft can be pulled free, leaving only the foreshaft and point behind. The hunter can then quickly fit a new, pre-sharpened foreshaft and be ready to throw again, saving precious time and valuable materials. Another hunter is working with leather. He's carefully inspecting the thongs that bind the spear points to the foreshafts. The sinew and leather must be strong and secure. He chews on a piece of hide to soften it, his jaw working rhythmically. Then, he wraps it tightly around the base of the stone point, his fingers nimble and sure. He'll often use a sticky resin, a natural glue, to help secure the binding, making it waterproof and incredibly durable. Every knot, every wrap, is done with an understanding of the immense forces the weapon will endure. There's no room for shortcuts. The most powerful tool in their arsenal isn't the spear itself, but the atlatl, the spear throw. It's a simple-looking device, essentially a stick with a hook or spur at one end that fits into a small notch on the base of the spear. But this simple stick is a marvel of physics. It acts as an extension of the hunter's arm, a lever that dramatically increases the speed and power of the throw. A spear launched with an atlatl can travel farther and hit with much greater force than one thrown by hand alone. This allows the hunters to attack large, dangerous prey, like bison or mammoth, from a safer distance. The hunters practice with their atlatlos constantly, honing their aim and their form. It's a full-body motion, a dance of power and precision. The hunter stands sideways, swinging the otlot over his shoulder in a long, smooth arc. As his arm comes forward, he snaps his wrist, launching the spear with incredible velocity. The spear flexes in midair, a thin, deadly projectile, before straightening out as it flies toward its target. The sound is a sharp hump, followed by the satisfying thud of the point hitting a target. Just a bale of dried grasses, but soon it will be a moving, breathing animal. Now, the hunters gather. The work on their weapons is done. The leader, a man named Kale, doesn't speak in a loud voice. He doesn't need to. He uses his hands, his eyes, and a series of quiet clicks and gestures to communicate the plan. This is a language every hunter here understands intimately. He points towards the ridge where the scouts last saw the tracks. He holds up 3 fingers, then sweeps his hand in a wide arc, indicating a flanking maneuver. Another hunter responds with a hand signal, a question about the wind direction. Kale picks up a pinch of dust and lets it drift from his fingers, showing them. The wind is favorable. It will carry their scent away from the herd. Teamwork is the cornerstone of their survival. They are not just a group of individuals. They are a single, coordinated unit. Each hunter knows his role without being told. The fastest and youngest will form the flanks, ready to drive the prey towards the more experienced hunters who lie in ambush. The best marksmen with the outlaws will take the crucial first shots. They move as one, their senses heightened, their minds linked by a shared purpose. They know each other's strengths and weaknesses, and they trust each other with their lives. This silent coordination is vital. A single misplaced step, a snapped twig, or a careless cough could alert the prey and ruin the entire hunt. They have learned to read the landscape as an open book. Every track, every broken branch, every call of a bird tells a story. They can tell how long ago an animal passed, whether it was running or walking, and if it was injured or calm. This deep connection to their environment is as important as any weapon they carry. As the last light of day fades, the preparations are complete. A row of spears, their newly sharpened points gleaming, leans against the shelter wall. The atlatls lie beside them. The hunters share a final meal, the mood somber yet filled with a quiet confidence. They are ready. They know the risks. A hunt for large game is always dangerous. A charging bison or a cornered bear can turn hunter into hunted in an instant. But they also know that the survival of their families, their entire clan, depends on their success. As darkness settles over the land, they rest. But even in their sleep, their minds are on the hunt. They dream of the chase, of the flight of the spear, of the moment of truth. They are not just providers. They are the guardians of their people, carrying the weight of their community on their shoulders. Tomorrow, they will walk out into the dawn, not with fear, but with the quiet determination of men who are masters of their craft, partners with the wild world, and protectors of their future. The fire dies down to glowing embers, and a deep silence falls over the camp, a silence pregnant with the anticipation of the coming day. Thank you for watching. If you're fascinated by this journey into the past, make sure to subscribe and join us for the next chapter. The sun hangs low in the sky, casting long shadows across the valley. It's a time of day when the world seems to hold its breath, a quiet moment of transition. This is the time we've been waiting for. We move not with hurried steps, but with a slow, deliberate rhythm that matches the pulse of the land itself. Each of us knows our role without a word being spoken. It's a dance we've practiced for generations, a silent language passed down through our family. My grandfather, his face, a map of countless seasons, gestures with a subtle tilt of his head. He points towards a ridge where the wind whispers through the tall grasses. He doesn't need to speak. We understand. The wind is our ally, carrying our scent away from where the deer will likely pass. Patience is the first lesson of the hunt. It's not about forcing the moment, but about becoming part of the landscape, waiting for the right opportunity to present itself. We sit, we listen, we watch. We observe the flight of a hawk, the rustle of a mouse, in the undergrowth. Every sound, every movement, is a piece of the story the land is telling us. My uncle, who moves with the quiet grace of a shadow, begins to circle around, taking a wide, looping path. His movements are so fluid they barely disturb a single leaf. He isn't there to startle or to rush. His purpose is to gently guide, to suggest a path. He knows the trails the deer prefer, the places they feel safe. He uses this knowledge not to trap, but to encourage. It's a conversation with the herd, a respectful negotiation. He understands their instincts, their caution, and he honors it. He might snap a twig here, or rustle some bushes there, not with aggression, but with a gentle pressure that suggests a safer way lies ahead, toward the open meadow where we wait. My cousin and I are positioned on the opposite side of the meadow. Our task is observation. From our vantage point, we can see the whole scene unfold. We watch my uncle's slow progress, a distant, dark shape moving against the tree. We see the first sign of the deer, a flicker of an ear, a twitch of a tail. They are cautious, testing the air, their senses alive to every subtle change in their environment. They don't panic. They simply respond to the gentle suggestion in the air, the hint of a presence that encourages them to move along a path of least resistance. The led doe steps into the meadow first. She is old and wise, her coat the color of dried grass. She pauses, her head held high, and surveys the area. Her calm demeanor reassures the rest of the herd. One by one, they follow, emerging from the woods like spirits at dusk. They are not frightened. They are simply moving through their home, and we are just a quiet part of it today. There's a profound beauty in this moment, watching TM seeing the trust they have in their leader and their environment. My father, positioned near my grandfather, slowly raises his bow. It's an act of immense respect and focus. His breathing is steady, his movements economical. This is not an act of power, but of purpose. It's the culmination of hours of waiting, of years of learning. He has watched these deer his whole life. He knows their patterns, their families. He chooses an older buck, one that has lived a full life. It's a decision made with a deep understanding of the herd's health, ensuring that the younger, stronger animals will continue to thrive. The arrow flies true, a silent messenger. The moment is quick, quiet, and devoid of struggle. It is a release. The rest of the herd, startled but not terrified, bounds away, their white tails flashing in the fading light. They disappear back into the safety of the trees, their departure as graceful as their arrival. We remain still for a long time, allowing the quiet to settle back over the valley. A sense of gratitude washes over us. Gratitude for the land that provides, for the animal that has given its life, and for the family that shares in this ancient, sacred practice. As we approach, we do so with reverence. My grandfather places a hand on the buck's side, his lips moving in a silent prayer of thanks. He thanks the animal for its gift, a gift that will nourish our family through the coming months. He thanks the forest, the mountains, and the Creator for this cycle of life. Every part of the animal will be used. The meat will feed us, the hide will clothe us, the bones will be shaped into tools. Nothing is wasted. It's a promise we make, a way of honoring the life that has been given. The work begins as the stars start to appear in the deep purple sky. We work together, our hands moving with practiced skill. My cousin and I learn by watching, by helping where we can. We learn how to be efficient, how to be respectful in our task. The stories start, then, told in low voices under the vast, open sky. My grandfather speaks of other hunts, of lessons learned, of the wisdom of the animals. These stories are as much a part of the nourishment as the meat itself. They feed our spirit, connecting us to all the generations who have sat under these same stars, performing this same sacred duty. Carrying our gift back to camp is a slow and steady process. The weight is a reminder of the responsibility we hold. It's a tangible connection to the source of our sustenance. We walk in comfortable silence, the crunch of our footsteps, the only sound. Back at our camp, the fire is a warm, welcoming glow. The smell of wood smoke fills the air. The work is not over, but for a moment, we rest. We share a meal, not from the hunt, but from the provisions we brought. The hunt is about providing for the future, not just the present moment. In the days that follow, the entire family will be involved. The women will take charge of preserving the meat, their knowledge just as vital, just as ancient. The children will watch and learn, absorbing the rhythms of a life lived in close connection with the earth. They learned that food doesn't come from a store, but from a relationship built on respect, skill, and a deep understanding of the natural world. This hunt was not about conquest. It was about participation. It was about being a part of the intricate, beautiful web of life that sustains us all. It was a moment of profound connection, a reminder that we are not separate from the land, but a part of it, and for that, we are eternally thankful. The hunt is over. The air, once thick with the thunder of hooves and the shouts of hunters, now holds a heavy stillness. Cautiously, the hunters approach the fallen giant. This isn't a moment of simple victory. It's a moment of profound reverence. They gather around the bison, not as conquerors, but with a deep sense of gratitude. For them, this animal is life. It represents warmth in the biting cold, food for their families, tools for their hands, and the very means of survival. This is a scene that has played out for thousands of years, a sacred contract between humans and the natural world. So, how do we know this? How can we be so sure that this moment was more than just a successful hunt? The answers lie buried in the earth, in the archaeological record. We don't find just scattered bones and discarded tools. We find evidence of something much deeper: ritual, respect, and a spiritual connection. Let's travel back in time, to sites like the Olson Chubbuck site in Colorado, which dates back about 8,500 years. Here, archaeologists uncovered the remains of nearly 200 bison that had been driven into a deep gully. But what was truly astonishing wasn't just the scale of the kill, but the way the animals were processed. The skeletons were systematically butchered, with the choicest cuts of meat removed. More than that, the bones were arranged in specific patterns. Skulls were often placed facing a certain direction, sometimes east, towards the rising sun. This wasn't random. This deliberate placement suggests a ceremony, a way of honoring the spirit of the bison. It's a silent testament to the belief that the animal gave its life, and this gift required a gesture of respect in return. They weren't just taking, they were participating in a cycle of giving and receiving. This practice wasn't unique to one location. Across the Great Plains and beyond, similar sites tell the same story. At the Head Smashed in Buffalo Jump in Alberta, Canada, a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Layers upon layers of bison bones, accumulated over nearly 6,000 years, reveal a long-standing tradition. Alongside the bones, we find ceremonial objects, like painted stones and carefully crafted projectile points that seem too ornate for everyday use. These were likely special, perhaps used in rituals to call the bison or to thank them after a successful hunt. Imagine a shaman or a respected elder leading a ceremony, chanting prayers and making offerings. They understood that their survival depended on the bison, and they couldn't afford to be arrogant. They had to maintain a balance, a relationship built on respect. This spiritual connection is also woven into the art left behind by these ancient peoples. In caves and on rock faces across North America, we see incredible depictions of bison. These aren't just simple drawings. They are powerful symbols. Some paintings show bison with heart lines drawn from the mouth to the heart, representing the animal's life force. Others depict hunting scenes that are less about the mechanics of the kill and more about the spiritual interaction between hunter and hunt. These images were likely part of hunting, magic, or rituals, meant to ensure a successful hunt by connecting with the spirit of the animal beforehand. It was a way of asking for permission, of ensuring the bison would offer themselves to the people. Think of it as a form of prayer, etched in stone. The bison provided everything. The hide became clothing, moccasins, and tippy covers that could withstand the harshest winters. The bones were shaped into a dizzying array of tools: needles for sewing, scrapers for cleaning hides, hoes for farming, and even knives. The horns were carved into spoons and cups. The sinew was used as strong thread, and even the stomach could be used as a waterproof bag or a cooking vessel. Absolutely nothing was wasted. This complete utilization of the animal wasn't just about efficiency. It was the ultimate sign of respect. To waste any part of the bison would have been an insult to the spirit that provided it. Every piece of the animal was a gift, and it was treated as such. This belief system, where animals are seen as spiritual beings and respected partners, is a common thread in many indigenous cultures around the world. It's a worldview where humans are not separate from or superior to nature, but an integral part of it. The hunt was a sacred act, and the fallen animal was a source of life that was honored with prayer, ritual, and a promise that its gift would not be squandered. The archaeological evidence, the carefully placed bones, the ceremonial objects, the ancient artole, points to this profound truth. When those ancient hunters approached the fallen bison, they were approaching a sacred being. They were acknowledging the ultimate sacrifice and honoring the spirit that sustained their people. It was a powerful moment of connection, a reminder that in the great web of life, every being has a role, and every life has meaning. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey back in time. If you found this interesting, please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more chapters. See you next time. Welcome back to our series on ancient survival. Today, in Chapter 8, we're diving deep into the prehistoric toolkit. Ever wondered how our ancestors processed a large animal like a bison or mammoth with just what they could find around them? It wasn't brute force. It was about having the right tool for the right job. Let's explore the essential stone and bone implements that made it all possible. Imagine the scene. A successful hunt. A massive animal on the ground. The first challenge is getting through the thick hide. For this, our ancestors relied on incredibly sharp flint knives. Flint, or chert, is a type of rock that breaks with a conchoidal fracture, creating razor-sharp edges, even sharper than modern surgical steel. A skilled flint knapper could strike a flint core with a hammerstone, producing long, thin flakes perfect for knives. These weren't just for the initial cut. They were precision instruments for slicing through meat and separating it from the hide. A well-made flint knife was the workhorse of the butchering process. Once the hide is opened, the next step is to carefully separate it from the underlying muscle and fat without piercing it. This is where bone awls and end scrapers come in. A bone awl, essentially a sharpened piece of bone, often from a deer's leg, was perfect for punching holes in the hide, perhaps to tie it back or prepare it for stretching. Its pointed tip was also useful for delicately separating sinew and ligaments. Then you have the end scraper. This is a teardrop-shaped stone tool with a steep, beveled working edge on the wider end, held firmly in the palm. It was used to scrape away any remaining flesh and fat from the underside of the hide. This was a crucial step in preparing the hide for tanning, ensuring it wouldn't rot. The design was simple but incredibly effective, allowing for a strong, controlled scraping motion. As the butchering progresses, you encounter tougher materials. You need to separate large muscle groups and disarticulate joints. This is where the heavier tools come into play. Enter the biface. A biface is a tool worked on both sides, creating a sharp, symmetrical edge all the way around. These could be hand axes or large, almond-shaped knives. They provided both a cutting edge for severing thick tendons and the weight needed to add force to the cut. You could use a biface to chop through the cartilage of a joint or to section the carcass into more manageable pieces. They were the versatile multi-tools of the Paleolithic world. But what about the really heavy-duty work? Like breaking open large bones to get to the nutrient-rich marrow inside. That's a job for the chopper. A chopper is one of the simplest and oldest stone tools. Often just a fist-sized river cobble with a few flakes knocked off one side to create a crude but powerful cutting edge. Its weight and durability were its greatest strengths. A few hard strikes with a chopper could crack open a femur, revealing the marrow, a vital source of calories and fat. It was also used for smashing through the ribcage to access the internal organs. So, how were these tools made and maintained? The process, called flint knapping, was a true art form. It required a deep understanding of the stone, knowing just where and how hard to strike. A master craftsman would use a hard hammerstone like quartzite for the initial shaping, then switch to a softer hammer, made of antler or bone, for more refined flaking and pressure flaking involved using an antler tine to press off tiny flakes, creating an incredibly sharp and serrated edge. Maintenance was constant. A flint edge dulls quickly with use, especially when cutting through hide and hitting bone. Throughout the butchering process, the hunter would pause to resharpen their tools. Using a small, fine-grained stone or another piece of antler, they would run it along the edge, a technique called retouching, to restore its sharpness. This meant that a single tool could be used, resharpened, and used again. its shape slowly changing over its lifespan. A broken tool wasn't discarded. It was often reworked into a smaller tool, like a scraper or a drill. Nothing was wasted. Let's put it all together. The process starts with a sharp flint knife to open the hide. An end scraper cleans the hide, while a bone all pokes holes. A bifus, the all-purpose cutter, separates major muscle groups and disarticulates the limbs. Finally, a heavy chopper cracks the bones for marrow. Each tool had a specific role, and together, they formed a highly efficient system that allowed our ancestors to fully utilize every part of the animal. This wasn't just about food. The hides became clothing and shelter. The bones and antlers were transformed into needles, awls, fishhooks, and even art. The sinew was used as thread or cordage. The butchering site was the first step in a complex chain of production that provided everything needed for survival. The sophistication of this toolkit shows us a deep knowledge of anatomy, materials science, and engineering. It's a testament to the ingenuity and adaptability of early humans. They weren't just primitive hunters. They were skilled butchers, engineers, and craftsmen, turning the raw materials of nature into the very foundation of their world. Thanks for joining us on this journey into the ancient workshop. The next time you see a simple stone in a museum, remember the incredible story it tells about survival, innovation, and the skills that carried our species through the ages. If you enjoyed this, be sure to like and subscribe for more deep dives into our ancient past. See you in the next chapter. The bison lies still upon the plains, a monumental offering from the earth. The air is crisp, filled with the scent of sage and damp soil, but a new, iron-rich aroma is beginning to rise. The family gathers, not with celebration, but with a quiet, profound reverence. This is not just a hunt's end, it is the beginning of survival, a sacred ritual passed down through countless generations. The patriarch, his hands weathered like ancient leather, kneels beside the great beast. He murmurs words of thanks to the spirit of the bison, a promise that no part will be wasted, that its life will sustain their own. His flint knife, honed to a razor's edge, is a familiar weight in his hand. He makes the first incision, a precise, a knowing cut. It's a testament to a lifetime of learning, a knowledge not found in books but written in sinew and bone. He knows exactly where the hide is thickest, where it thins over the belly. He understands the architecture of the animal, the way the muscles layer and connect. The first cut is a straight line, from the throat down to the tail, a gesture of opening. The hide is incredibly tough, a natural armor that has protected the bison from predators and the harsh elements. Peeling it back requires immense strength and skill. Others in the family now join in. His eldest sons, their movements mirroring their father's, begin to work on opposite sides. They use smaller, curved senibes, designed for skinning. Their motions are a dance of pulling and slicing, using the tension of the hide against the blade. It's a slow, arduous process. They must be careful not to puncture the stomach, which could spoil the meat. Every movement is deliberate, a lesson learned from watching their elders since they were children. As the magnificent hide is carefully peeled back, it reveals the intricate map of the body beneath, the deep red of the muscle, the glistening white of the sinew, the pale yellow of the fat. It's a breathtaking sight, a raw display of life's powerful machinery. The family sees not just meat, but a complex system that they must respectfully and intelligently dismantle. Now, the work of butchering begins. The matriarch, her wisdom as sharp as any knife, directs the next stage. She points to the large muscle groups, the hump, rich in fat and prized for its flavor, the powerful hindquarters, which will provide the bulk of their dried meat. She knows which cuts are best for immediate cooking and which are destined for the drying racks. Some family members start slicing the meat. The goal is to create long, thin strips, no thicker than a finger. This is crucial for the drying process. If the strips are too thick, they won't cure properly and will rot. If they are too thin, they'll become brittle. It's a skill that takes years to perfect. Their knives glide along the grain of the muscle, each slice a consistent, practiced motion. The slabs of meat are laid out on clean cloths, ready to be prepared for preservation. While the adults handle the heavy cutting, the children have their own vital roles. They are not idle observers. They are active participants in this cycle of life and sustenance. The younger ones are tasked with collecting the bones. They move with an almost playful seriousness, their small hands gathering ribs, femurs, and vertebrae. They know which bones are good for making tool scrapers from the shoulder blades, awls and needles from the smaller, sharper bones. They also know which ones are rich in marrow, a nutrient-dense food that will be cooked over the fire later. The older children help their mothers prepare the organs. Nothing is wasted. The heart, liver, and kidneys are considered delicacies, rich in vitamins and minerals that are essential for their health. These are carefully removed, cleaned, and set aside for the evening's meal. The stomach, once emptied and thoroughly cleaned, will be used as a cooking vessel or a water container. Its tough, flexible lining is perfect for simmering stews over hot rocks. This entire process is an anatomy lesson in action. The father points out the tendons, long and incredibly strong, explaining how they will be dried and used as thread for sewing or to string their boughs. He shows them the layers of fat, explaining how it will be rendered down into tallow, a versatile substance used for cooking, waterproofing leather, and as a fuel for their lamps. There is a rhythm to their work, a quiet symphony of coordinated effort. There's little need for conversation. Each person knows their role, their movements flowing seamlessly into the next. It's a testament to their unity, their deep understanding of one another and of the world they inhabit. They are not just carving an animal, they are weaving the fabric of their survival, strengthening the bonds of their family with every slice of the knife. As the sun begins its descent, casting long shadows across the plains, the scene is one of industrious comfort. The bison is now a collection of its essential parts, each destined for a specific purpose. Piles of meat strips await salting and drying. Organs are ready for the cooking fire. The hide is being prepared for tanning. Bones are sorted for tools and marrow. This is more than just a task. It is an act of creation. From the single, magnificent life of the bison, the family is creating everything they need to thrive. Food that will last them through the winter. Tools to aid their daily work. Clothing to protect them from the cold, and the security of knowing they will endure. The air is no longer just filled with the scent of the hunt, but with the promise of life. A promise they have secured with their own hands, their shared knowledge, and their profound respect for the great animal that gave its life for theirs. Thank you for watching this chapter unfold. This respectful and intricate process is the foundation of their culture and survival. If you're drawn to these stories of connection to the natural world, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more. We appreciate you being here with us. Welcome back to our journey into the past. Today, in Chapter 10, we re-dive into one of the most critical skills for survival, preserving the harvest for winter. Imagine the scene. A successful buffalo hunt is over, a monumental achievement, but the real work, the work that ensures survival through the harsh Leon months, is just beginning. How did ancient peoples turn this massive bounty into a food supply that would last all winter? Let's find out. The primary goal was to remove moisture, the enemy of preservation. One of the most common methods was drying. Large, thin strips of meat would be cut and draped over wooden racks, exposed to the sun and wind. This process, known as making jerky, could take several days. It created a lightweight, protein-packed food that was easy to carry and incredibly long-lasting. Think of it as the original survival food, perfected over thousands of years. Another brilliant technique was smoking. Meat would be hung in a smoky lodge or over a slow-burning fire. The smoke not only helped to dry the meat, but also imparted antimicrobial compounds from the wood, adding another layer of protection against spoilage. Plus, it added a delicious, complex flavor that we still love today in things like bacon and smoked salmon. This wasn't just about survival. It was about making food taste good, too. Once the meat was dried or smoked, it had to be stored properly. It couldn't just be left out in the open. The common method was to pack the preserved meat into rawhide bags, often called parfleche bags. These containers were tough, durable, and offered excellent protection from pests and moisture. Sometimes, the dried meat was pounded into a powder and mixed with rendered fat and dried berries to create. This superfood was calorically dense, nutrient-rich, and could last for years. making it the ultimate provision for long journeys or brutal winters. So, where did they store these precious food caches? Archaeologists have uncovered fascinating clues. They've found evidence of underground storage pits, often lined with grass, bark, or animal hides. These pits acted like natural refrigerators, keeping the food cool, dry, and safe from scavengers. By digging into the earth, people created a stable, protected environment to safeguard their winter sustenance. Imagine uncovering one of these pits and realizing you're looking at an ancient pantry, a direct link to the foresight and ingenuity of our ancestors. But it wasn't just the muscle meat that was important. In fact, some of the most vital nutrients came from parts of the buffalo that we often overlook today. Fat was liquid gold. It was rendered down from large deposits on the animal and stored, often in sections of the intestine. This rendered fat, or tallow, was a crucial source of calories and essential fatty acids, vital for energy and warmth during the freezing winter months. It was also used for cooking, waterproofing, and even as a base for medicines and paints. Then there was the bone marrow. The large leg bones of the buffalo were cracked open to access the rich, fatty marrow inside. This was a delicacy, packed with nutrients and energy. It could be eaten fresh, right from the bone, or rendered down and mixed into other foods. For people living a physically demanding life in a harsh environment, every single calorie counted, and marrow was a powerhouse of nutrition. And let's not forget the organs. The liver, heart, kidneys, and other organs were often the first parts of the animal to be eaten after a hunt. These are what we now call superfoods, incredibly dense in vitamins and minerals like iron, vitamin A, and B vitamins. Consuming these organs immediately replenished vital nutrients and provided a boost after the strenuous work of the hunt. Nothing was wasted. Every part of the animal was understood to have a purpose and a nutritional value that was essential for health and survival. How do we know all of this with such certainty? Archaeology provides the key. When archaeologists excavate ancient campsites and processing sites, they look for specific clues. Hearths, the ancient fireplaces, are a treasure trove of information. By carefully analyzing the soil and residues, scientists can find microscopic traces of fats, proteins, and plant matter. This residue analysis can tell us what was being cooked, what fuels were used, and even how food was being processed. The bones left behind also tell a story. Cut marks on animal bones show us how the animals were butchered. Spirofractures indicate that bones were being broken open to extract marrow. And the types of bones found can tell us which parts of the animal were being brought back to camp. For example, finding lots of leg bones, but very few ribs might suggest that marrow extraction was a key activity at that particular site. Storage pits, as we mentioned, are another direct line to the past. The shape, size, and contents of these pits reveal how food was stored and what was being prioritized. Sometimes, archaeologists are lucky enough to find remnants of the containers themselves, like fragments of rawhide or basketry, preserved over centuries. By combining all of these pieces of evidence, the location of hearths, the analysis of residues, the marks on bones, and the structure of storage pits, archaeologists can reconstruct a detailed picture of life in the past. It's like being a detective, piecing together the daily routines and survival strategies of people who lived thousands of years ago. This incredible system of preservation and resourcefulness highlights a deep, intimate knowledge of the natural world. It was a holistic approach where nothing was wasted and every part of the harvest had a purpose. From the muscle meat dried for the long winter to the nutrient-rich organs and marrow consumed for immediate health, this was a sophisticated and sustainable way of life. It ensured that one successful hunt could sustain a community through the toughest of times, a testament to human ingenuity and resilience. Thank you so much for joining me on this exploration of ancient food preservation. It's a powerful reminder of the skills and knowledge that have helped humanity thrive for millennia. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more journeys into the past. We'll see you in the next chapter. Welcome back to our journey into the past, where survival was an art form and ingenuity was the most valuable tool. Today, in Chapter 11, we're exploring how ancient peoples transformed one of nature's greatest gifts, the bison, into everything they needed to thrive. It's a story of respect, resourcefulness, and incredible craftsmanship, where absolutely nothing went to waste. Imagine a successful hunt, The community has gathered, and the real work is just beginning. Every part of this magnificent animal will be given a new purpose. Let's start with the very foundation of so many creations. The hide. Processing a bison hide was a labor-intensive, multi-step process. First, it had to be carefully removed and then fleshed. This meant scraping away every last bit of fat and muscle. What tool would they use for such a tough job? The bison itself provided the answer. A large, sturdy shoulder blade, or scapula, was sharpened along one edge to create a highly effective scraper. With this tool, the hide was cleaned, preparing it for the next stage. After fleshing, the hide was stretched taut on a wooden frame, staked to the ground, and left to dry in the sun. But a stiff, raw hide isn't very useful for clothing. It needed to be soft. This is where the brain of the bison came in. Brain tanning is an ancient technique where the fatty acids in the animal's brain are used to break down the fibers of the hide. The brain would be mashed into a paste, often mixed with water and sometimes liver, and then rubbed deep into both sides of the hide. This mixture was left to soak in, lubricating the fibers and beginning the transformation from a stiff board into a pliable material. But the work was far from over. After the Brentoning solution had done its job, the hide had to be worked physically. This was grueling. The hide was stretched, pulled, twisted, and scraped over a smooth, upright post or a stretched sinew rope. This constant friction and stretching was what made it incredibly soft and supple, perfect for creating comfortable clothing. For an even softer, more luxurious finish, the hide might be smoked over a smoldering, smoky fire. This smoking process not only gave the hide a beautiful, golden brown color, but also helped to waterproof it and prevent it from becoming stiff again if it got wet. From this finished buckskin, leggings, shirts, dresses, and moccasins were created. Clothing that was durable, breathable, and perfectly suited to the environment. Now, how do you stitch these pieces of hide together to make clothing? You need a needle and thread. Once again, the bison provided. The small, slender bones of the bison, particularly from the lower legs, were ideal for making needles and awls. An artisan would carefully select a piece of bone, then begin the slow process of shaping it. Using a rough piece of sandstone, they would grind the bone down, patiently abrading it, turning it over and over, until a fine, sharp point was formed. The other end would be smoothed, and for a needle, a tiny eye would be drilled. This was a delicate task, likely done with a sharp flint drill bit, twisted carefully by hand. A single slip could break the fragile eye, and the whole process would have to start over. The result was a polished, strong bone needle, a testament to the maker's patience and skill, and the thread that came from the long, powerful tendons running along the bison's spine. These are called sinews. The sinew was carefully removed and then dried until it was hard and stiff. When thread was needed, the sinew was soaked in water until it became pliable, and then it was pounded with a stone to separate it into individual, incredibly strong fibers. These fibers could be twisted together to create a thread of any thickness required. This sinew thread was remarkable. When it dried, it would shrink slightly, pulling the seams of the hide tightly together, creating a stitch that was almost waterproof and incredibly durable. So, with a bone needle and sinew thread, ancient tailors could create garments that would last for years, protecting them from the elements. The resourcefulness didn't stop with clothing. Life on the plains required carrying water, often over long distances. The bison's stomach, or paunch, made an excellent water bag. Once cleaned, it could be sealed at one end, creating a lightweight, collapsible, and surprisingly strong container, capable of holding several gallons of water. It was the original canteen, a perfect solution crafted directly from the hunt. Even the horns weren't discarded. They were hollowed out and carved to make cups, spoons, and ladles. The coarse tongue of the bison could be used as a hairbrush. The hooves and hide scraps were boiled down to create a powerful glue, essential for fletching arrows and securing tool parts together. The tail, with its switch of hair, made a perfect fly swatter. The list goes on and on. Every single piece, from the largest bones used for support posts and shelters to the smallest chips of bone fashioned into game pieces, had a role. This complete utilization of the bison was more than just practical. It was a philosophy. It demonstrated a deep understanding of the natural world and a profound respect for the animal that sustained them. It was a cycle of life where nothing was wasted and everything had value. The slow, methodical craftsmanship involved in turning bone into a needle or hide into a shirt wasn't just work. It was a tradition, a skill passed down through generations. It was a way of life that connected the people directly to the land and the animals they shared it with. Thank you for joining me on this deep dive into ancient ingenuity. It's a powerful reminder that with knowledge and respect, the natural world provides everything we need. If you enjoyed this, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss our next chapter. We'll see you next time. The fire crackles, a steady heartbeat in the center of our lives. Around it, the future watches, their eyes wide with wonder. Today is not a day of grand hunts or long journeys. Today is a day of learning, a day where the wisdom of generations is passed down, not through stories, but through doing. The air is thick with the scent of fresh meat, a testament to a successful hunt. But the real work begins now. I watch as an elder takes a child's small hand in his own, guiding a sharpened flint. His voice is a low, gently rumbled like stones in a slow-moving river. See how the muscle runs? Says. You cut with the grain, not against it. The knife is part of your hand, an extension of your will. Feel the resistance. Learn its language. The child, no taller than my waist, concentrates with a seriousness that belies his age. His small brow is furrowed, his tongue peeking from the corner of his mouth. This is more than just learning to butcher. It's learning respect for the animal that gave its life, ensuring no part of its gift is wasted. Another group of children gathers around one of the women. She's showing them how to slice the meat into thin, even strips for drying. Too thick, and it will spoil from the inside out. Too thin, and it will turn to dust in the sun. She holds up a perfect, ruby-red sliver against the light. This is what you want, she explains. The sun will kiss it, the wind will harden it, and it will feed us through the cold moons. The children mimic her movements, their clumsy attempts met with patient smiles and gentle corrections. They learn that patience is a tool, just as vital as any blade. Furterawaya boys, learning about bones. Not all bones are equal. An elder taps a large femur with a stone. This one, he says, this one is full of rich marrow. We crack it, cook it, and it gives us strength. It makes our own bones strong. He points to the smaller, more delicate ribs. These we can shape into needles and awls. And the shoulder blades, broad and flat, they make good scrapers for cleaning hides. The boy touches the different bones, feeling their weight, their texture. He's learning that the skeleton of an animal is a map to survival, a treasure chest of tools and nourishment. I remember being his age, my own hands sticky with fat as I learned which kind burns clean. It's a subtle art. You have to render it slowly, carefully, separating the pure, clear liquid from the rest. That clear fat is precious. It fills our lamps and pushes back the long, dark nights. It allows the stories to be told, the tools to be mended, and the faces of our loved ones to be seen when the sun has gone to sleep. Tonight, a young girl is learning this alchemy, her face glowing in the light of the small flame she's tending. She is learning to capture the light. This is the rhythm of our lives. It's a quiet, steady pulse. It's the gentle murmur of a teacher's voice, the focused silence of a student, the shared laughter when a clumsy cut goes awry. It's the understanding that these skills are our legacy. They are the threads that bind us to our ancestors and connect us to the generations yet to come. The hunt provides the material, but it is this teaching, this sharing, that truly sustains us. It's the knowledge that when we are gone, the fires will still burn bright, tended by hands we have taught. The sun begins to dip below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. The strips of meat are now hanging on racks, silhouetted against the twilight. The scent has changed, now mixed with the wood smoke and the cool evening air. The children are tired but full, not just of food, but of knowledge. Their eyes hold a new spark, the satisfaction of a skill learned, a secret of the world unlocked. I look at their faces, illuminated by the central fire, and I see the echoes of the past and the promise of the future. I see my grandfather's patience in the way an elder guides a small hand. I see my mother's careful precision in the way a woman inspects a strip of meat. And in the children's eager faces, I see myself, all those years ago, just beginning to understand the great, beautiful web of life and our place within it. This is our strength. It's not in the sharpness of our spears or the strength of our arms. It's in this circle, this endless, loving transfer of wisdom. The older generation doesn't hoard its knowledge. It gives it freely, joyfully, because we know that a people are only as strong as their youngest members. We are a chain, and every link matters. Tonight, the links have been forged a little stronger. The chain will hold. As the first stars appear in the deepening sky, a sense of profound peace settles over us. The day's lessons are over, but the learning never truly stops. It continues in the stories told around the fire, in the shared meal, in the quiet observation of the world. It's in the heart of every child who will one day become the teacher. Standing by a fire, passing on the sacred and practical arts of living, the fire crackles, and in its light, the cycle continues. Thank you for joining me in this moment. If you feel connected to these stories of heritage and survival, please consider subscribing. It helps us continue sharing the journey. Until next time, stay curious and keep learning. Have you ever wondered how our ancestors survived? Not just survived, but thrived in a world without supermarkets, smartphones, or even written language. It wasn't just luck, it was knowledge, painstakingly gathered over thousands of years and passed down from one generation to the next. Think about the family we've been following. Their every move, from tracking game to finding edible plants, isn't a new invention. It's the echo of countless ancestors who walked the same path. This is the power of oral tradition, a living library of survival knowledge whispered from elder to child around ancient campfires. This isn't just a story, it's the story of all of us. Human history is built on this foundation of shared experience. When we see the family skillfully drive a herd of bison, we're witnessing a technique perfected over millennia. This wasn't a one-time trick. It was a highly sophisticated strategy, a communal effort requiring deep understanding of animal behavior, terrain, and timing. The elders in the group weren't just old. They were the keepers of the flame, the living repositories of everything the group needed to know to see the next sunrise. Their memories held the maps to water sources, the calendars of migrating herds, and the recipes for turning poisonous plants into medicine. We have incredible archaeological evidence that proves these complex survival strategies were real. Take the Olson Chubbuck site in Colorado. Archaeologists uncovered the remains of nearly 200 bison in a narrow arroyo. This wasn't a random stampede. The arrangement of the bones tells a clear story. A well-organized hunt, where ancient people drove a herd into a natural trap. They knew the land, they knew the animals, and they worked together with deadly efficiency. This wasn't a guess. It was a science, a brutal but necessary ballet of survival, perfected over countless seasons. And it wasn't an isolated event. Let's travel to the Cooper site in Oklahoma. Here, archaeologists found something even more astonishing. 3 separate layers of bison kills, one on top of the other, spanning hundreds of years. Painted on a bison's skull found at the lowest level was a red zigzag, the oldest painted skull found in North America. This wasn't just about food. It was about culture, about ritual, about a deep spiritual connection to the world. It tells us that these hunts were profound events, steeped in tradition and meaning, passed down through generations who returned to the same sacred ground to reenact the life-giving hunt of their ancestors. The scale of these operations is truly mind-boggling. Look at the head smashed in Buffalo Jump in Alberta, Canada, a UNESCO World Heritage Site. For nearly 6,000 years, indigenous peoples used this cliff to hunt bison. They built elaborate drive lanes, sometimes miles long, made of stone, cairns, and brush, to funnel the stampeding herds toward the precipice. This required immense planning, coordination, and a deep, generational understanding of the landscape. Young hunters would learn by watching their elders, participating in the drive, and eventually leading it themselves. The knowledge was a sacred trust, ensuring the continuity of their people. This transfer of knowledge wasn't just about hunting big game. It was in the little things, too. It was knowing which berries were safe to eat and which were poison. It was understanding how to knap flint into a razor-sharp tool, a skill that takes years of practice to master. It was knowing how to read the clouds to predict a storm, or how to follow the stars to find your way home. Each piece of information was a vital thread in the tapestry of survival. A mistake could mean starvation or death, so the lessons taught by elders were learned well, remembered perfectly, and passed on with absolute fidelity. Think of it like this. Every action our Storius family takes is guided by an invisible council of ancestors. When they choose a campsite, they're channeling the experience of a great-grandmother who knew to avoid low-lying areas during flash floods. When they stitch hides together for clothing, they're using techniques refined by 100 generations before them. This is the essence of oral tradition. It's not just telling stories. It's a dynamic, living process of teaching, learning, and adapting. It's how humanity built its first database of knowledge long before the invention of writing. And this process of refinement never stopped. Each generation didn't just copy the last. They added to the collective wisdom. They might discover a new plant, a better way to preserve meat, or a more efficient hunting technique. These innovations would be tested, proven, and then incorporated into the oral tradition, making the next generation even more resilient. It was a slow, deliberate process of cultural evolution, running in parallel with our physical evolution. We weren't just getting smarter as individuals. Our collective, shared knowledge was growing, becoming more powerful with every passing year. The elders were the key. In a world without books, their minds were the most valuable resource the group possessed. They held the collective memory of the people. Their stories weren't just entertainment. They were instruction manuals for life. They taught ethics, morality, and the group's place in the cosmos, all through tales of creator spirits, animal helpers, and heroic ancestors. Losing an elder was like losing a library, a catastrophic loss of irreplaceable information. That's why they were so respected and protected. Their survival was essential for the survival of the entire community. So when we see our family working together, remember that they are not alone. They are accompanied by the ghosts of their ancestors, the whispers of their elders, and the accumulated wisdom of 1,000 generations. Their actions are a testament to the enduring power of human connection and the timeless tradition of passing knowledge from hand to hand, from voice to ear, across the vast expanse of time. The sites at Olsen Chubak, Cooper, and Hedsmashdeen are not just piles of old bones. They are monuments to this tradition. They are the physical proof of the knowledge carried through time, the foundation upon which all human civilization is built. Thanks for watching. If you found this journey into the past as fascinating as I did, be sure to like, subscribe, and join us for the next chapter. Welcome back to our journey through the history of ancient North America. Today, in Chapter 14, we're diving deep into the world of an animal that was more than just a creature. It was the lifeblood of a continent. The American bison. Imagine a vast, rolling sea of grass stretching as far as the eye can see. This is the Great Plains, a unique biome that once covered a huge part of North America. And for thousands of years, this landscape was dominated by tens of millions of bison. They weren't just living on the land, they were actively shaping it. Let's talk about their role as ecological engineers. When massive herds of bison grazed, they didn't just eat the grass. Their hooves would churn up the soil, aerating it and pressing seeds into the earth. Their waste provided a powerful, natural fertilizer, enriching the soil and promoting new growth. This constant cycle of grazing, trampling, and fertilizing created what's called a grazing lawn, a highly productive patch of nutrient-rich grasses. This process created a mosaic landscape. Some areas would be heavily grazed, while others were left to recover. This patchwork of different grass heights and densities supported an incredible diversity of life. Prairie dogs, for instance, thrived in the shorter grass areas created by bison, which in turn provided food for predators like ferrets and eagles. Birds nested in the taller grasses, and insects flourished everywhere, supporting the entire food web. Bison wallows, those dusty depressions they created by rolling on the ground, would fill with rainwater, becoming temporary wetlands for amphibians and invertebrates. The bison was truly a keystone species. The entire grassland ecosystem revolved around it. Now, let's look at their population dynamics. Bison populations weren't static. They went through natural cycles. These cycles were influenced by factors like climate, disease, predation, and the availability of food. In good years, with plentiful rain and lush grass, herds would expand. During periods of drought or harsh winters, their numbers might decline. This ebb and flow was a natural rhythm of the plains. Predators like wolves played a crucial role in this system. They would typically target the old, the sick, or the very young, which helped keep the herds healthy and strong. This predator-prey relationship was a finely tuned dance that had been perfected over millennia, ensuring the long-term stability of both populations. For the indigenous peoples of the Great Plains, the bison was everything. It wasn't just a source of food, it was the very center of their cultural and spiritual world. Think about it. A single bison could provide an astonishing amount of resources. First, and most obviously, was the meat. Bison meat is incredibly lean and rich in protein, iron, and other essential nutrients. A large bull could provide hundreds of pounds of meat, which could feed a family for a long time. The meat was eaten fresh, but more importantly, it was preserved. It was cut into thin strips and dried in the sun and wind to create jerky. Or, it would be pounded into a powder and mixed with rendered fat and berries to make pemmican. Was a superfood dense, high-energy, and long-lasting food source that was perfect for sustaining people through long winters or during long journeys. It was the ultimate survival food, but the bison provided so much more than just meat. The hide was essential. Tanned with the hair on, it became warm winter robes, blankets, and bedding. With the hair removed, it was turned into leather, or rawhide, for teepee covers, clothing, moccasins, and durable containers. Even different parts of the hide had different uses, depending on their thickness and flexibility. And the ingenuity didn't stop there. The bones were shaped into a huge array of tools. Scrapers for cleaning hides, awls for sewing, knives, and even farming implements, like hoes, made from the shoulder blades. Horns were carved into spoons, ladles, cups, and elaborate headdresses. The sinew, the strong tendons along the backbone, was used as thread for sewing and for making powerful bowstrings. Even the internal organs were used. The stomach could be used as a watertight container or a cooking vessel. The brain was used in the tanning process to soften hides. The hair was used for rope and stuffing for pillows and saddles. The hooves could be boiled down to make glue. Absolutely nothing was wasted. This deep respect for the animal and the commitment to using every single part reflected a profound understanding of sustainability and a spiritual connection to the world. This reliance made the bison central to the cultural and spiritual lives of plains tribes. The rhythm of life often followed the seasonal migrations of the herds. Major social and ceremonial gatherings, like the Sundance, were often timed to coincide with the great summer bison hunts, when many bands would come together. Bison were featured prominently in stories, songs, and religious ceremonies. They were seen as a sacred gift from the Creator, a symbol of abundance and strength. The white buffalo was particularly sacred, its appearance seen as a powerful and prophetic sign. So, why was the bison so perfectly suited for human subsistence on the plains? It comes down to a few key factors. First, their sheer numbers. With tens of millions of animals, they represented a reliable and abundant food source. Second, they traveled in large herds, which, while dangerous, made them predictable. Indigenous hunters developed sophisticated techniques, like the buffalo jump or the surround, which allowed them to harvest many animals at once, providing for the entire community. Third, their size. A single large animal provided a huge return on the energy invested in the hunt. It was far more efficient than hunting smaller game. And finally, as we've discussed, every single part of the animal could be used. It was a one-stop shop for food, shelter, clothing, tools, and spiritual sustenance. The bison wasn't just an animal on the landscape. It was the landscape. It was the economy. It was the culture. For thousands of years, the story of people in the heart of North America was inextricably linked to the story of the bison. Understanding this relationship is fundamental to understanding the history of this continent. It's a story of ecological balance, incredible ingenuity, and deep spiritual connection, all centered on this magnificent animal. Thank you so much for joining me on this exploration. If you found this fascinating, please hit that like button and subscribe for more chapters in our journey through history. We'll see you in the next video. The sun bleeds out across the horizon, painting the vast plains in hues of deep orange and soft purple. As the last sliver of daylight surrenders to the coming night, our camp begins to transform. The bustling energy of the day dissolves into a quiet, almost sacred stillness. This is the time for evening rituals, a time when the community draws closer, wrapped in the cool embrace of the descending darkness. Look around. The fires, once roaring with life, are now glowing low, their embers pulsing like the slow, steady heartbeat of our tribe. They cast a warm, flickering light on the faces gathered around them, illuminating smiles, thoughtful expressions, and the peaceful features of those lost in thought. The air, crisp and cool, carries the comforting scent of smoking meat, a rich, savory aroma that promises sustenance and strength for the days ahead. It's a smell that speaks of successful hunts and shared bounty, a scent deeply woven into the fabric of our existence. Listen closely. The boisterous laughter and shouting of the day have been replaced by the gentle murmur of quiet conversations. Voices are soft, hushed, as stories are shared and plans for the morrow are whispered. It's a tapestry of sound, where the deep, rumbling tones of the elders blend with the lighter, softer voices of the young. Here, wisdom is passed down not through grand speeches, but through these intimate, fireside chats. A hunter recounts the day's chase, his hands gesturing in the dim light to mimic the deer's path. A mother hums a lullaby, her voice a soothing balm in the quiet air. All around the fires, you'll see the children, their boundless energy finally spent. They are curled up beside their parents or grandparents. Some are already fast asleep, their small chests rising and falling in a gentle rhythm, their faces serene in the firelight. Others are dozing, their heads nodding as they fight a losing battle against sleep, lulled by the warmth and the low drone of conversation. An elder, her face a beautiful map of wrinkles and wisdom, gently strokes the hair of a child nestled against her, a silent gesture of love and protection that has been repeated for generations. These moments are precious. They are the glue that binds us, the quiet rituals that reaffirm our connection to one another. There's a profound sense of peace here, a feeling of safety and belonging that is as essential as the food we eat and the water we drink. In the flickering firelight, we are not just a collection of individuals. We are a family, a single entity breathing in unison with the night. Step away from the immediate circle of the fire and the sounds of the camp begin to change. The human whispers fade, replaced by the symphony of the wilderness. The wind sighs through the tall grasses that surround us, a constant, gentle rustle that sounds like the world itself is breathing. It's a lonely sound, yet a comforting one, a reminder that we are part of this vast, untamed landscape. Listen deeper still. In the distance, you might hear the mournful call of a lone wolf, its voice carrying across the plains a hauntingly beautiful melody. It's not a sound of threat, but a part of the night's natural chorus. Closer, the chirping of crickets creates a steady, rhythmic pulse, a constant backdrop to the evening. An owl might hoot from a distant tree, its call a soft, questioning note in the darkness. These are the sounds of our world, the voices of the land that cradles us. The sky above is a spectacle in itself, free from the haze of any city. The stars emerge with a brilliance that is almost overwhelming. They are not just scattered points of light, but a thick, glittering river of diamonds strewn across a canvas of black velvet. The constellations, our ancient guides and storytellers, are sharp and clear. We see the great hunter, the serpent, the bear, all watching over us as they have watched over our ancestors. The moon, a slender crescent tonight, casts a soft, silvery glow, outlining the distant hills and making the dew on the grass sparkle. There is a powerful magic in this time of day. It is a time for reflection, for gratitude, and for rest. The hardships of the death-along treks, the hunt, the constant vigilance melt away in the cool night air. What remains is a sense of accomplishment and a quiet confidence in our ability to face whatever the next dawn brings. We are resilient. We are a strong and we are together. The smell of wood smoke clings to our clothes and hair, a perfume that will linger until morning. The taste of the smoked meat, rich and satisfying, is still on our tongues. The warmth of the fire seeps into our bones, warding off the night's chill. These sensory details are the anchors of our memory, the threads that connect each evening to the next, creating a continuous story of our life here. As the night deepens, more and more people will drift off to their shelters, seeking the deeper rest that sleep brings. The fires will be banked carefully, their embers preserved to be coaxed back to life in the morning. A few sentinels will remain awake, their watchful eyes scanning the darkness, their presence a silent promise of safety for the sleeping camp. Their silhouettes against the starlit sky are a testament to our enduring spirit. This is our life. It is simple, yet it is rich. It is challenging, yet it is beautiful. These evening hours, suspended between the labor of the day and the uncertainty of tomorrow, are a gift. They are a time to recharge, not just our bodies, but our spirits. They remind us of who we are, where we come from, and why we persevere. In the quiet hum of the sleeping camp, under the vast, star-filled sky, we find our strength, our peace, and our home. Thank you for joining me in this moment, for sharing in the quiet rituals of our camp. If you found a sense of peace in this story, please like and subscribe for more chapters from our journey. Until next time, may your own evenings be filled with warmth and quiet comfort. Picture this. It's thousands of years ago. The sun has set, the fire is crackling, and the day's work is done. The wind howls outside the cave or hut, but inside, a community is gathered. What are they doing? They're listening. An elder, their face illuminated by the dancing flames, begins to speak. The story they tell isn't just entertainment. It's a lifeline. It's their history, their science, their law, and their very identity, all woven into a single, captivating narrative. Welcome, everyone. Today, we're journeying back in time to explore one of the most fundamental human traditions, storytelling, specifically. We're going to dive deep into why storytelling was and still is absolutely crucial in societies without written language. Before the first alphabet was ever carved into stone, how did people pass down everything they knew? How did they teach their children what it meant to be human? The answer, in a word, is stories. Let's start with the most basic function: survival. Imagine a young hunter, eager but inexperienced. How do they learn to track a bison across the vast plains? Sure, they can watch the older hunters, but the most critical lessons are often learned around the campfire. An elder might tell a story about a great hunt from long ago. They'd describe the subtle signs in the grass, the way the wind carried a certain scent, the exact moment to strike. This isn't just a thrilling tale of bravery. It's a practical manual for survival. The story of a hunter who got lost by ignoring the position of the stars is a geography lesson. The tale of someone who ate a poisonous berry is a botany textbook. These narratives were the original encyclopedias, filled with life or death information, packaged in a way that was memorable and easy to understand. Memory is key here. In a world without books, the human mind was the ultimate library. But how do you make information stick? You don't just list facts. You embed those facts into an emotional, engaging narrative. Think about it. Are you more likely to remember a random list of animal tracks, or a gripping story about how your ancestor, Kale, used his knowledge of those very tracks to save his family from starvation? The story adds context, emotion, and meaning, making the information far more durable in our memory. The rhythm and repetition often found in oral traditions also acted as mnemonic devices, helping the listener and the story to recall complex details with stunning accuracy. But storytelling went far beyond just practical knowledge. It was the glue that held society together. Stories created a shared history and a collective identity. When an elder recounted the epic journey of their ancestors across a frozen land bridge, they weren't just telling a cool migration story. They were answering the fundamental questions. Who are we? Where did we come from? What makes us a people? These origin myths and ancestral sagas gave every member of the tribe a sense of belonging. They created a shared past that connected the youngest child to the most ancient forefather, binding them together with a common thread of heritage. This sense of us was vital for cooperation and social cohesion. Furthermore, Stories were the foundation of law and morality. How do you teach a child the difference between right and wrong without a written code of conduct? You tell them a story about a trickster coyote whose selfishness leads to disaster, or a tale about a wise woman whose kindness is rewarded by the spirits of the forest. These weren't just fables. They were case law. They presented complex ethical dilemmas and demonstrated the consequences of certain actions. A story about a hero who shares his food with everyone teaches the value of generosity. A narrative about a conflict between two brothers that is peacefully resolved illustrates the importance of diplomacy and community harmony. Through these stories, societal norms, taboos, and values were passed down from one generation to the next, ensuring that the social order remained stable. Let's also not forget the spiritual and cosmological role of storytelling. For non-literate peoples, stories were the primary way of understanding the universe. They explained the unexplainable. Why does the sun rise and set? A story about a celestial chariot being pulled across the sky. Why do we have seasons? A myth about a goddess who descends to the underworld for half the year. These narratives provided a framework for making sense of a world that could often seem chaotic and frightening. They populated the world with gods, spirits, and mythical creatures, explaining natural phenomena and giving meaning to human existence. Rituals, ceremonies, and spiritual practices were all deeply intertwined with these sacred stories, which connected the community to the cosmos itself. Think about the storyteller themselves. The elder by the hearth wasn't just an entertainer. They were a living archive, a historian, a teacher, and a priest, all rolled into one. Their ability to remember and artfully recount these vital narratives made them one of the most respected members of the community. They were the guardians of the culture's soul. When a storyteller passed away, it was as if an entire library had burned to the ground unless they had successfully passed their stories on to the next generation. The apprenticeship of a new storyteller was a sacred duty, ensuring the continuity of the people. Now, you might be thinking this is all in the distant past, but the power of oral storytelling is far from gone. It continues today in many indigenous communities around the world who are fighting to preserve their languages and traditions against the tide of globalization. Even in our hyper-literate digital world, the core principles remain. We are still captivated by stories. What is a blockbuster movie, a binge-worthy TV series, or a viral TikTok video if not a modern form of storytelling? They shape our views, teach us lessons, and create shared cultural touchstones. We tell stories to our friends to explain our day. We read stories to our children to teach them morals. And we build national identities around stories of our founding. So, the next time you gather with friends or family and someone says, "Let me tell you a story," remember the ancient fire. Remember the elder's voice cutting through the darkness. You're not just passing the time. You are participating in one of the oldest, most powerful, and most fundamentally human activities there is. You are weaving the fabric of connection, knowledge, and meaning that holds our world together. The technology has changed, but the magic of the story remains as potent as ever. Thanks so much for joining me on this journey back in time. If you found this fascinating, don't forget to hit that like button. Subscribe for more explorations into our shared human story, and let me in the comments, what's a powerful story that has shaped who you are? Oh no. Until next time, keep listening and keep sharing. Hey everyone, and welcome back to our deep dive into the past. Today, we're stepping into the shoes of an archaeologist to uncover the secrets of ancient bison processing. How do we turn scattered bones and dirt into a vivid picture of life thousands of years ago? It's like being a detective, and the crime scene is frozen in time. Imagine standing before a massive jumble of bison bones, a site archaeologists call a bone bed. This isn't just a random pile. It's a story waiting to be told. The first thing we do is meticulously map everything. Every single bone, every fragment is plotted on a grid. This helps us see patterns. Are the bones from a whole herd? Are they mostly from young or old animals? This tells us about the hunting strategies. For instance, a mix of ages might suggest a whole herd was driven off a cliff, a technique known as a bison jump. If we find mostly pre-aged adults, it could point to a more selective hunt, perhaps an ambush at a waterhole. The sheer number of animals gives us a sense of the scale of the event and the size of the human group involved. Now, let's get up close and personal with these bones. We're looking for tiny, almost invisible clues. Cut marks. These aren't random scratches. Under a microscope, we can see the V-shaped grooves left by sharp stone tools as they slice through meat, tendons, and skin. The location of these marks is crucial. Cut marks on the ribs. That's evidence of removing the meaty brisket. Marks around the joints of the leg bones that shows dismemberment, separating the large limbs for easier transport. We can even distinguish between butchering marks for meat and marks made to skin the animal for its hide. Every single slice tells a part of the story, revealing the step-by-step process these ancient people followed. It's incredibly precise work. But what about the tools themselves? Sometimes we're lucky enough to find the stone scrapers, knives, and choppers right there among the bones. These artifacts are a treasure trove of information. We analyze the type of stone used. Was it local or was it traded from hundreds of miles away? This tells us about a group's mobility and their social networks. We also look for wear and tear on the tool's edge. A polished, rounded edge on a scraper suggests it was used to process hides, softening them for clothing or shelter. A chipped and battered edge on a chopper points to its use in smashing open large bones to get at the nutritious marrow inside. Even more amazing is when we find residues still clinging to these tools. We use sophisticated chemical analysis to identify these microscopic traces. Finding bison blood protein on the edge of a stone flake is the ancient equivalent of a DNA match. It's direct, undeniable proof that this specific tool was used to butcher this specific type of animal. We might also find traces of plant fibers or tree resin, suggesting how the tool was hafted or attached to a handle. This helps us reconstruct the complete tool and understand the technology of the time. Beyond the bones and tools, we look at the soil itself. We excavate in careful layers, peeling back the earth-like pages in a book. A dark, charcoal-rich layer tells us we've found a hearth, an ancient fireplace. The size and location of these hearths are important. A large, central hearth might have been for cooking and warmth for the whole group. Smaller, scattered hearths could be individual family fires or specialized areas for things like smoking meat to preserve it. Around these hearths, we might find fire-cracked rock, which was heated in the fire and then used to boil water in hide-lined pits, a kind of ancient slow cooker. And we go even smaller, down to the microscopic level. We take soil samples and analyze them for pollen and feed. Phytoliths are tiny silica structures from plants that preserve for millennia. Finding a high concentration of grass pollen tells us the hunt likely took place in late summer or fall when bison were fat and their coats were thick. If we find phytoliths from edible plants like prairie turnips near a hearth, we know they were gathering and cooking plants to supplement their meat-heavy diet. It paints a much fuller picture of their meal, not just the main course. Occasionally, archaeologists hit the jackpot, a perfectly preserved processing site. Places like the Olsen Chubok site in Colorado are so incredible because they were buried quickly by windblown sand, creating a near-perfect snapshot. Here, the skeletons of almost 200 bison were found arranged in a line exactly as they were butchered. The hunters had dismembered them in an assembly line fashion, starting with the animals at one end and working their way down. The bone piles were organized. Skulls in one area, limb bones in another. It's a breathtakingly clear window into the efficiency and organization of these ancient societies. It shows they weren't just hacking away. They had a system, a deep knowledge of animal anatomy passed down through generations. So, when we piece it all together, the age and number of bison, The precise cut marks, the tool types, and residues. The layout of the hearths and the microscopic plant evidence the story comes alive. We can reconstruct the season of the hunt, the methods they used, the tools they crafted, the way they divided the labor, and even what they ate for dinner. We move from a pile of bones to a dynamic scene of community, cooperation, and survival. It is a testament to the ingenuity of ancient peoples and the power of archaeology to give them a voice. It's not just about what they did, but understanding why they did it, and how their actions shaped their world. Thanks for joining me on this archaeological detective story. If you found this fascinating, hit that like button and subscribe for more journeys into the past. See you next time. Hey everyone, and welcome back to our deep dive into the Paleo-Indian world. Today we're tackling a fascinating question. How did ancient peoples across North America process the massive animals they hunted? It wasn't a one-size-fits-all approach. We are going to explore how different groups adapted their butchering and preservation techniques based on their unique environments. Think about it. The frozen plains of the north, the arid deserts of the southwest, and the dense forests of the east all presented different challenges and opportunities. This is a story of incredible ingenuity and adaptation. Let's start our journey on the northern plains, the classic image of mammoth and bison hunters. Here, the environment was a key player. For much of the year, it was cold. Really cold. This natural refrigeration was a huge advantage. When a hunting party brought down a mammoth, it was an all-hands-on-deck situation. They had a limited window before the carcass would freeze solid or be scavenged. The toolkits here were robust, featuring large, heavy-duty bifaces and choppers, perfect for dismembering such a massive animal. The primary goal was to quickly break the carcass down into manageable portions. They would often focus on stripping the largest muscle groups and accessing the nutrient-rich organs first. Evidence from sites like Colby in Wyoming shows that Paleo-Indians would sometimes cache large sections of mammoths like entire limousine, the frozen ground. This was their freezer. They could come back later, thaw the meat and have a ready supply of food. It was a brilliant strategy for surviving long, harsh winters when fresh game might be scarce. The sheer scale of these animals meant that processing was a communal effort, reinforcing social bonds and ensuring the entire group benefited from the successful hunt. Now, let's travel south to the completely different world of the American Southwest. Forget natural refrigeration. Here, the challenge was the heat and aridity. Meat would spoil incredibly quickly in the desert sun. So, preservation methods had to be fast and efficient. The Paleo-Indian groups here couldn't rely on freezing. Instead, their primary technique was likely drying. After a hunt, perhaps for smaller bison or other desert game, the focus would be on creating jerky. They would butcher the animal and cut the meat into thin strips. This maximizes the surface area, allowing it to dry quickly in the hot, dry air. These strips could be hung on racks or laid out on rocks. A little bit of salt, if available from natural deposits, would have helped the process and added flavor. This method turned perishable meat into a lightweight, portable, and long-lasting food source, absolutely essential for mobile groups in a region where resources were scattered. The toolkit might also look a bit different, perhaps with more refined, smaller flake tools perfect for slicing thin strips of meat, rather than the heavy-duty choppers of the north. It's a beautiful example of adapting technology and technique to beat the heat. Finally, let's head east, into the eastern woodlands. This region presents yet another set of environmental factors. It was a temperate, humid climate with dense forests. Neither freezing nor quick sun drying was a consistently reliable option. The humidity would slow down the drying process and could lead to mold. So, how did they preserve their meat? The answer was likely a combination of techniques, with a heavy emphasis on smoking. After hunting deer, elk, or even mastodon, the people here would have butchered the animal and prepared the meat. By building a smoky fire and hanging the meat above it, they could slowly dry it out, while the compounds in the smoke acted as a preservative and a flavor enhancer. This technique was perfect for the humid, forested environment. It protected the meat from insects and slowed bacterial growth. Smoked meat could last for weeks or even months, providing a stable food supply. The forests also provided an abundance of fuel for these smoking operations. Their tools might include a mix of larger butchering implements and finer cutting tools, reflecting the diversity of game they hunted, from massive proboscideans to smaller forest animals. So, let's recap what we've seen. On the northern plains, Paleo-Indians used the cold as a natural freezer, catching large portions of megafauna. In the southwest, they battled the heat by rapidly drying meat into jerky, creating a lightweight, durable food. And in the eastern woodlands, they used smoke to preserve meat in a humid environment. 3 different regions, 3 different primary strategies, all showcasing the incredible resourcefulness of the first peoples of North America. They weren't just skilled hunters. They were master butchers and food scientists, using the world around them to survive and thrive. What's so incredible is that these weren't just random choices. These techniques were deeply intertwined with their way of life. On the plains, the communal effort of processing a mammoth strengthened the social fabric. The cached meat provided security. In the southwest, lightweight jerky was the perfect food for nomadic groups, constantly on the move. In the east, the ability to smoke and store meat allowed for a more settled existence in certain seasons, taking advantage of the rich forest resources. It's a powerful reminder that there's no single story of the past. The Paleo-Indian experience was diverse, complex, and shaped by the land itself. By looking closely at the tools they left behind and thinking critically about the climates they lived in, we can piece together a much richer and more accurate picture of their lives. It's a story of innovation, intelligence, and a deep connection to their environment. Thanks so much for joining me on this journey across ancient North America. I hope this gives you a new appreciation for the ingenuity of its first inhabitants. If you enjoyed this, please hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into our shared past. Drop a comment below and let me know which of these techniques you find most fascinating. See you in the next video. For thousands of years, a powerful story has been unfolding on the vast plains of North America. It's a story of survival, respect, and a deep, unbreakable connection. At the heart of this story are 2 figures: humans and the magnificent American bison. This isn't just a chapter in a history book. It's a living, breathing bond that has endured for millennia. Let's travel back in time, way back. Imagine a world shaped by ice, where megafauna roamed. Early peoples in North America, the Paleo-Indians, were master survivors, and they're key to survival. The ancient bison, a larger ancestor of the ones we see today. These early hunters didn't just see a source of food, they saw life itself. A successful hunt meant everything: meat for sustenance, thick hides for clothing and shelter against the biting winds, and bones meticulously crafted into essential tools, from needles to scrapers. Every single part of the bison was used. Nothing was wasted. This wasn't just practicality. It was the beginning of a profound respect, an understanding that the bison's gift was the foundation of their world. Archaeological sites, like the Olson Chubbuck site in Colorado, give us a stunning glimpse into this ancient relationship. Here, nearly 200 bison were driven into an arroyo around 10,000 years ago. The remains show us a highly organized, communal effort. This wasn't a random, chaotic hunt. It was a sophisticated strategy requiring deep knowledge of bison behavior, the landscape, and incredible cooperation. It tells us that from the very beginning, the relationship was built on intelligence and a shared social structure. The people and the bison were intertwined in a dance of survival on the open plains. As millennia passed, the ice retreated and the landscape changed. The giant ancient bison evolved into the modern bison we recognize, and the cultures of the plains peoples flourished. But one thing remained constant. The bison was still the center of their universe. For plains cultures like the Lakota, Cheyenne, and Blackfoot, the bison, or Tatanka as the Lakota call it, was more than an animal. It was a sacred relative, a spiritual provider. The bison was woven into the fabric of their daily lives, their ceremonies, and their deepest beliefs. Creation stories often featured the bison as a key figure, a benevolent being that offered itself to the people so they could live. The annual Sundance, one of the most important ceremonies, was deeply connected to the bison's life cycle and its role in renewing the world. The bison skull was, and still is, a powerful symbol in these ceremonies, representing life, abundance, and the sacred connection between the physical and spiritual realms. This wasn't just about respecting an animal. It was about honoring a spiritual covenant, a promise between the people and their most important provider. This deep relationship shaped every aspect of Plains life. The seasonal movements of the people mirrored the migrations of the vast bison herds. Their entire economy was a bison economy. When the herds were plentiful, the people thrived. They had everything they needed: food, shelter from tipis, made of bison hides, clothing, and even fuel from dried bison dung, known as buffalo chips. The bison provided security and prosperity. Its presence was a sign of a healthy world, of balance and order. The health of the herd was directly linked to the health of the people. But this profound connection also came with a heavy responsibility. The people understood that their survival depended on the bison's survival. This fostered a conservation ethic, long before the term was ever coined. Hunts were carefully planned. They were often communal events, guided by spiritual leaders and strict rules to ensure that only what was needed was taken and that the herds would continue to thrive for future generations. Prayers and offerings were made before a hunt, not just to ask for success, but to give thanks and to honor the spirit of the animal that was about to give its life. It was a relationship of true reciprocity. This enduring bond, stretching from the Ice Age hunters to the vibrant Plains cultures, shows an incredible continuity. For over 10,000 years, the story of people on the Great Plains was inseparable from the story of the bison. It was a relationship built not on domination, but on deep ecological knowledge, mutual respect, and spiritual reverence. The bison wasn't just a resource to be exploited. It was a partner in the grand, cyclical story of life on the plains. The near extinction of the bison in the 19th century was therefore not just an ecological disaster. It was a cultural catastrophe. It was a deliberate severing of this ancient bond, an attempt to break the spirit and independence of the Plains peoples. But even in the face of such devastation, the connection was never truly broken. The memory, the stories, and the spiritual significance of the bison lived on. Today, we are witnessing a powerful resurgence. As bison herds are being restored to tribal lands, it's more than just an act of conservation. It's a cultural and spiritual revival. It's the healing of a deep wound. The return of the bison signifies the return of a central part of their identity, a reconnection to their ancestors, and a renewal of that sacred, ancient covenant. The enduring bond between humans and bison, tested by time and tragedy, continues to evolve, reminding us of the power of respect, resilience, and the deep connections that tie us to the natural world. This ancient story is still being written, and it's a powerful lesson for all of us. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey into the past. If you found the story as fascinating as I do, please hit that like button and subscribe for more explorations into the deep history that connects us all. See you next time. As the sun bleeds its last colors across the horizon, we find our way back. The air, once sharp with the day's hunt, now softens, carrying the familiar scent of wood smoke and home. The camp is a small circle of light and life against the encroaching twilight. Our steps are heavy, but satisfied, each stride a testament to the day's hard-won success. The landscape, which felt so vast and challenging under the high sun, now seems to cradle us, guiding us back to the warmth of our own making. The children, their energy a flickering flame that never quite goes out, run ahead. Their laughter echoes, a bright, pure sound in the quiet evening. They are the first to greet the elders, who have kept the fires burning, their faces etched with the wisdom of countless seasons. There is a quiet exchange of nods and smiles, a language understood without words. The day's bounty is acknowledged, a shared sense of relief and accomplishment settling over everyone like a warm blanket. The work isn't over yet, but its nature has changed. The urgency of the hunt gives way to the meticulous, rhythmic tasks of preservation. The meat, a symbol of our survival, is carefully prepared. Under the watchful eyes of the elders, younger hands learn the ancient techniques. Slices are cut with precision, each movement a practiced art. The sinew and bone are set aside, nothing wasted, everything holding a purpose for the days to come. It's a communal effort, a dance of cooperation where everyone has a role. As we work, The first stars begin to prick the deep velvet of the sky. They appear one by one, then in clusters, until the heavens are a breathtaking tapestry of distant fires. The great river of stars, what our descendants will call the Milky Way, spills across the darkness. We pause, looking up in silent reverence. These same stars have watched over our ancestors, and they will watch over generations yet to come. They are a constant, a celestial map that reminds us of our place in the grand, sprawling story of the world. Now, the processed meat hangs on racks, silhouetted against the firelight. It will dry slowly, preserved by smoke and air, a promise of sustenance for the colder days ahead. The sight is deeply reassuring. It is security, it is the future. With this final task complete, a profound sense of peace descends upon the camp. The day's labor is done. The hunters have provided, the prepares have secured, and the community is whole. We gather closer to the fire, its flames dancing and casting long, playful shadows. The heat seeps into our weary muscles, chasing away the chill of the night. Someone begins to tell a story. Their voice, a low murmur that weaves through the crackle of the logs. It's a tale of the day's hunt, embellished with moments of bravery and humor. Laughter ripples through the group, a warm, shared sound that binds us together. The children, their eyes wide with a mixture of sleepiness and fascination, listen intently, absorbing the lessons and legends of their people. Slowly, one by one, we retreat to the shelter of our high dwellings. Inside, it is a haven of warmth and safety. The scent of leather and earth is comforting, the soft furs a welcome embrace. The fire's glow still filters through the entrance, a gentle nightlight against the dark. Outside, the sounds of the wilderness are a familiar lullaby, the distant call of a nightbird, the whisper of the wind through the tall grasses, the chirping of crickets. These are not sounds of threat, but the rhythm of the world we are a part of. Lying here, cocooned in warmth, thoughts drift. We think of the great beasts, of their power and their sacrifice. We think of the land, its generosity and its unforgiving nature. And most of all, we think of each other. This small circle of people, bound by blood and shared experience, is everything. Our strength lies not in any single individual, but in our unity, our ability to work as one. We hunt together, we build together, we eat together, and we rest together. This is the essence of our existence. It's a simple truth that has sustained us through famine and feast, through long winters and bountiful summers. It's the power of human resilience, the unshakable will to not just survive, but to thrive. It's the magic of cooperation, the understanding that our combined efforts are far greater than the sum of their parts. We are a family, a clan, a tiny flicker of human consciousness under an immense, ancient sky. The day closes as it began, with the rhythms of nature and the bonds of kinship. The stars continue their silent journey across the heavens, indifferent to our small lives, yet somehow they feel like companions. They are a reminder of the timelessness of this moment. Countless families, 4 generations before us, have ended their days just like this, gathered, safe, and provided for, and countless more will do the same long after we are gone. There is a profound comfort in this continuity, in being a link in this unbreakable chain. The last embers of the fire glow, and the camp falls into a deep, collective slumber. It is a sleep earned through hard work and courage. It is a peace born from community and a shared purpose. Here, in the heart of the ancient world, a family rests, secure in their strength, grateful for the day, and ready for the dawn of another. Thank you for joining us on this journey back in time. If you found this story meaningful, please like, share, and subscribe for more chapters from our shared human history. We appreciate your support.